Okay.
Oh. Two've caught the ear there. One, because it's coming at deafening volume from behind me. It's a very good suggestion. It's a song called Acrobat. Which is a song about being a hypocrite, and I think we all can be, and I certainly have been. And, you know, you exact very high standards on people in the world, but then you don't live them personally. I think the line is, I should be an acrobat to talk like this and act like that. And Edge started the song, and it's a very unusual timing, is that right?
Yeah, it's like an unusual time signature for us. It's like a 6/8 almost, which is a very Irish time signature. It's like used a lot in traditional Irish music, but in rock and roll you don't really hear it that much. So that was the jumping off point, was to try and do something with an unusual beat.
Right, shall we carry on whizzing through some songs so that we actually get what?
Bad.
Okay, Bad.
Bad. Well, Bad was a song really that I have to say Brian Eno should get a big thank you and credit for, because he set us up. His theory was if you can create in the studio a situation where ideas will flow, that you are ultimately, that's what a producer's job is. So he had all these ways of tricking musicians into abandoning their kind of tried and tested approaches and sort of trying things in a different way, which I think is often the way to unlock a sort of creative instinct that you don't often get in the studio. So he came upon this idea of let's work on a song where there's really no chord changes, or just maybe 2 chords that we work between, and let's see what happens. It's all about just enjoying this very simple transition between 2 chords. And then we all sort of fell into this very interesting groove, and a guitar part came out of that. And suddenly we had this really unique feeling. And the jam, it was really an improvisation, just built and built. And the dynamic just went up and reached this incredible crescendo. And then we broke it down again. And really, we'd never written a song anything like that before. It was like another door had been opened.
Improvising is not what you expect from a band that came out of punk rock. It's more, you know, you think that's for jazz, you know, people, or people who are really, you know, unbelievable instrumentalists. But actually, that's what we do, and that's when we do our best stuff. Is when we get into this spell, we're into this thing, and you can just see it going around the room. And if you look at that drum part is really extraordinary, this kind of military rolling, this rising and falling, and Adam's playing this, it's almost jazz-like interpretive thing. This is like a band from the north side of Dublin who just, you know, only know 5 chords. I feel the lyric, I'm disappointed in the lyric, in that I never really finished it. The one that's on the album is kind of it's an improvisation. I just kind of made it up on the spot. And I sometimes think and got very angry and resentful about the fact that we didn't have time to finish that, because it could have been a great song. And I think, though, every night now that we play it, I get a chance to try and write the lyric again, and I'm really enjoying it.
I love the lyric. See, this is where I disagree with him. I love the lyric of that. I think it's one of his great lyrics.
But anyway, I don't know.
like, who's got...
There was somebody else said Bullet the Blue Sky, and that's kind of an interesting story, which I think explains the slightly haphazard approach to our songwriting. Because that one started out, we were in our demo studio in Dublin. Actually, it was a little studio that we used to go into called SCS. Paul Barrett was this slightly mad scientist who ran the place, and
That makes two of you.
it was actually a very important place for us, because we would go in there with a lot of rough ideas before committing to make a record, and based on how we did in STS, it would give us an idea if we were ready or not. And Paul was really important to us in those early years for helping us to make these demos. So we're in there one day, and I'm trying to work out a guitar riff that I have in my head, and Adam and Larry start playing along, but they play in completely the wrong beat.
And key.
So the one, and yeah, Adam's playing in a different key. So I'm going, this is not right. And so I'm kind of in a slightly grumpy mood. I'm going, they don't get it. They really don't get it. And so the jam finishes, and Bono bursts out of the control room and says, "That's amazing." And I was about to say, but they're playing it wrong. And I said, okay, so let's hear it. So I went into the control room and listened back, and it was so much better than what I was trying to do. It was just this unbelievable sound, and it was to do with Adam's bass. He'd come up with this feel and this mode, which was nothing to do with what I was trying to do on guitar. And Larry's drumming, it was an incredible demo. And when we played it to Brian Eno, after the sessions had ended and before we actually started recording the Joshua Tree, he just said, I don't want to know what that is. I never, ever want to hear any of the constituent parts of what that is. It's just so amazing. I just want to retain this impression of what that song is about. So let's just go in and record it when we're ready, but I don't want to have any understanding of what made that thing happen. And it was, you know, there it is, you know, Adam, Larry, myself, Bono, when we're all doing our own thing, sometimes you just get this bizarre combination of different takes on an idea, which I certainly would never have come up with that bass part.
And Adam is the jazz man in the band. He's the wild card, always play the unexpected. And yet, you know, if I go to gigs, I often don't notice the bass player. And it's a dreadful thing to say, but they just sound like the bass. But my favorite bands, I always know the bass. Yeah. And the Clash or the Stranglers or
Jar Wobble.
You know, Jar Wobble, and you just, and this thing, this sound that he makes, it is kind of extraordinary. But it is in the different key to what Edge was playing to him, so I think, you know, you gotta run with that. But it sounded very, disturbing. And I had some very disturbing experiences to draw from. And I'd been in Central America, I'd been traveling around, and I'd taken my young wife into places perhaps I shouldn't have. We were in El Salvador, and we were out, it was a small farmers cooperative that I think we were supporting at the time, and we were going out to see them while they were being firebombed. And it was a dreadful feeling to be walking through this jungle and feeling the ground shake. It was a terrible moment, and I remember walking past some graffiti, and it said, "Fuck Jesus." And I went, whoa, I thought this is very heavy. I said, they're very angry here about God, are they? And they said, no, that's Jesus. He lives around the corner. and so, you know, this was this kind of brand, and then we're crossing.
This is HBO, isn't it? I just want to check. It is so
okay, that's very, could be in trouble now, but then, you know, to see these people afraid, and then to feel fear myself, I remember this hearing, I think it's the first time to hear real gunfire. And there was a round opened as we were crossing a street over our heads. Just, I've been shot at a few times as it happens, but this was the first time. And I'm there with my young wife, and we're in this very heroic character called David Batstone, who's taking us closer, and he just says, "Be quiet, be cool. I think they're just trying to frighten us." I said, "When will we know?" And he goes, "When you're not dead." And so there was a fear, some anger I had about U.S. foreign policy at that time, and came back, and I was explaining this to Edge and saying, "Could you put these stories through your amplifier?" And